My sister tried to reunite me with my ex for years, even ambushing me while pregnant. I cut ties for my family's safety. I began dating my brother's best buddy when I was 16. We were dating until I graduated high school, and when he proposed, I turned it down. There was a lot of drama, with my family urging me to reconsider because we may have a lengthy engagement or reunite later. My connection with my brother, 36, was strained for a while, but the one with my sister, 32, never recovered. She was sure that my ex was the best person for me, and it got terrible when she began dating my ex's brother. My siblings invited my ex everywhere, even family gatherings. I remained silent because he was also their buddy, but things got out of hand when my sister insisted on us reconciling. She tried everything, from setting up blind dates to forcing us to share a room over the holidays. Regardless of the event, my ex was always invited. I eventually had enough and asked my parents to intervene. They were honest with my siblings and stopped inviting my ex so frequently. My sister, unlike my brother, did not back down. It all came to a head when I met my spouse on a semester abroad. He was from a different university but the same country, and we simply clicked. It was beautiful, and we got engaged after a year together. Except for my sister, the rest of my family was pleased for me. She kept telling me that I was in the honeymoon phase and would grow out of it. Despite numerous confrontations and attempts to reunite with my ex, I warned her that if she did anything else, I would cut her off totally. My sister made me maid of honor for her wedding and planned for me to spend all of my time with the bridal party, which included my ex. She even set up one of her friends as my husband's date. We only learned this at the reception, when the unfortunate girl attempted to make a pass at my husband. My sister said that was fine because we weren't married yet and could explore things with other people. I left the party. The next day, I told my parents and brother that, while I wouldn't force them to pick, I would not speak to my sister again. If they attempted to mend our relationship, I would also cut off communication with them. My father and brother backed my decision, but my mother was upset and attempted to compromise. She stopped after 2 attempts. I have not spoken with my sister in 6 years. She's tried everything, from gifts to tantrums, but I refuse to participate. At family gatherings, I pretend she doesn't exist. Initially, she made sarcastic remarks or attempted to generate drama, but since no one supported her, she quit up. She had a meltdown when she realized she had been invited to my wedding but would not be participating in any preparations. My brother has expressed regret for putting up with her antics for so long, and his relationship with my ex has deteriorated. They still talk, but they're not as close as before. My mother's birthday was a few weeks ago, and I finally confirmed that we are expecting our first child. This is not the first grandchild, but it is the first granddaughter. Everyone was delighted, except my sister. My mother noticed her reaction and invited me around for tea a few days later. My instincts told me not to go, but I wanted to be positive. The first thing I saw when I arrived was my sister's automobile. Upon entering, I noticed my sister, her husband, my ex, and my ex's mother. They had planned an intervention, accusing me of using a childish tactic to ignore my sister for too long. My ex tried to defend his previous behaviors by calling them romantic, but his mother claimed I was hurting my sister, who only wanted the best for me. She apologized on my sister's behalf and insisted that I forgive her. As they chatted, I secretly texted my father, brother, and husband for assistance, staring at my mother in bewilderment. Then my brother-in-law had the guts to call me hurtful and insist on acting like an adult because I was going to give birth to a baby. My mother started reading a letter about how upset she was that her daughters were not close. She admitted my sister's mistakes, but said they were well-intentioned. My sister responded with her own sorrowful letter, essentially repeating what the others had said. I didn't say anything till my brother came, apparently enraged. He took my belongings and expressed anger and disappointment. We sat in his car until my father and husband arrived. My brother continued to apologize as I sobbed uncontrollably. After leaving, I wrote an email to everyone involved, except my mother, containing my lawyer's contact information and explaining that I no longer wanted to be contacted. I warned that any additional efforts would result in my contacting the police. Nobody has approached me personally, but my father has said that my mother and sister are hysterical. They aim to make things right, with my sister even suggesting that she become involved in my baby's life, potentially as a godmother. My father is currently staying with my brother, and they both completely support me. However, some family members disagree with my decision. Some mutual acquaintances have even contacted me to express their concern for my sister, who is spreading accusations that my husband is keeping me away from my family. To clear the air, I wrote a public post outlining all that had happened. My sister, brother-in-law, and ex are now receiving harsh criticism, which, while not fully my intention, I believe is justified. My mother is still distraught, which makes me feel awful, but not as horrible as her intervention did. I recently decided to chat with my mother about laying ground rules for any future contacts. These include family therapy, set boundaries, no sharing personal information with my sister, and separate holidays. Most importantly, I informed her that if she did something like this again, I would cut her off permanently. She believes these stipulations are excessive, but has decided to comply. However, she mistook this for rapid access to baby news. I explained that it is a process, and she must demonstrate that she has changed. My father and brother refused to speak with my sister and continue to apologize for not intervening sooner. I forgave them because they demonstrated growth. My husband supports whatever option I choose, but my mother-in-law is concerned whether cutting off my mother completely is the best strategy. Ultimately, it is my decision, but I am split about what to do with my mother. Update number 1. I'd want to thank everyone for their help and advice so far. I'd like to provide some additional context indicated in my comments, as I can't respond to each one individually. My ex and I split up when I was 18, and he is now 37. The breakup occurred because I did not want to be married or engaged at the moment. My sister's desire to reunite with him derives from her fixation on the idea of us marrying brothers and being best friends. My mother has always been polite to my husband, but I'm beginning to feel it was all a ruse, which makes me quite sad. My ex has had other relationships since our breakup and has 2 children with one of them, but he is never married. My sister believes that his refusal to marry anybody else is romantic, since it demonstrates that he only ever intended to marry me. However, I've heard that his obsessive behavior extends beyond me. He behaves similarly with his children's mother. My sister has encouraged him to refocus on me. She believes his assistance will put her back in my good graces, allowing her to be a decent aunt. My brother started distancing himself from my ex after I expressed my displeasure with having him around all the time. This transition occurred while I was attending college and visiting my family during breaks. My brother also made an extra effort to welcome my husband, which affected his friendship with my ex, who felt betrayed. Now, my husband is one of my brother's closest friends, and my brother only communicates with my ex when it concerns my nephew, my sister's son, or to avoid being impolite. While both of my parents first appeared supportive of my desire to avoid my ex, it turned out that only my father really agreed. On the day of the tea party, my mother informed my father that she was preparing my favorite tea and pastries for some quality time, but he was unable to stay. My father left to visit my uncle, believing it to be a considerate gift. He is now outraged that he was misled. My husband tried to get along with my sister when they first met, but now he simply ignores her, assuming she is mentally ill. We don't know if she is, but her actions remain unacceptable. The tea party ambush, which featured my ex and his mother, was intended to help me face the root of my issues with my sister, according to their official version. To clarify a few facts, we are not Indians, are not extremely religious, and there is no income discrepancy between my husband and my ex. If anything, my husband might be slightly better off financially. Finally, my sisters-in-law, my brother's wife and my husband's sisters, are outraged by the scenario. My husband and his sisters intend to approach their mother about her comment. Meanwhile, my brother and his wife are thinking about going no contact, ENC, with my mother permanently. They have chosen not to allow her to see my nephews for a while. The more I think about it, the more I believe I'll have to go to North Carolina with my mother for my child's sake. My husband is devastated by the possibility that all of her previous contacts with him were fabricated, but he is even more unhappy that she made me cry and doubted myself as a nice person. While there are still numerous conversations to have with my family about my mother, I have decided to seek a restraining order against my sister and my ex. Semi-update. I spoke with my mother, but she insists she knows best. She labeled me a nasty person and stated that she would pursue grandparents' rights or even custody. While I know none of what she said is true, I was still concerned, so we sent her an official letter about it. My father has recently moved out of their home permanently, telling her that he could not accept her tormenting her own child. My brother and his wife have also agreed to travel to North Carolina with her. I realize this may appear abrupt, but I believe I underestimated how much sorrow I felt following the intervention. Afterward, my husband spoke with everyone, urging them to think seriously about what they valued, but he made it plain that we would not raise our child in a toxic environment. It's one of the several reasons I adore him. Reason number 3271, to be specific. My spouse has been saddened by my mother's deception and has determined never to give her anything again. My husband and his sisters also spoke with my mother-in-law about her comment, explaining why it was unacceptable. Fortunately, she is a compassionate and caring individual who comes from a supportive family, so she took their concern seriously. Meanwhile, My father and brother continue to apologize for any part they played in the incident. My father is still in astonishment that things have progressed to this degree, describing it as unreal. Regardless, they are completely supportive of me and have committed to assist me in fighting any bogus attempts made by my mother and sister. Update 2. I'd like to thank everyone for their beautiful messages and encouraging words. Things are both wonderful and dreadful right now, but I'm trying to remain optimistic. My brother and his wife sat down with my nephews and explained that Grandma was ill and had attempted to harm Auntie, me, and their younger cousin. They informed the boys that Grandma would no longer be a part of their lives, but assured them that she still loved them. It was a difficult topic, but the children were intelligent and understanding. They also learned that my sister is no longer a part of their life. The boys didn't appear to care since they already detested her, not only because of my circumstances, but also because she hasn't been very nice to them. My mother lost it when she found out she was being cut off and began claiming she had rights and would be able to visit her grandchildren. My father is presently looking for a permanent residence, but he will stay with us until January, primarily because my brother's mother-in-law is visiting and we have available space. He is quite sad about everything and has already contacted divorce lawyers, relocated his bank accounts, and made other required procedures. He has received innumerable emails, messages, and phone calls from my mother but has not responded to any of them, as recommended by his lawyer. In addition, the lawyer advised him not to block her for the time being. My father pondered forgiving her, but a few days after my previous post, my mother and sister showed up uninvited at my place. My sister had never visited my house, and my mother knew I didn't want her there, but she ignored my wishes. The cleaning lady, who was unaware of the circumstances, allowed them in. I observed their car as I was returning from errands. This time, I did not go inside. Instead, I contacted my relatives for assistance, and my husband's sister, who was close, arrived swiftly. She challenged them, telling them to leave or risk arrest for trespassing. They went, but I began to feel unwell. We went to the doctor, who told me that the stress was affecting my health and possibly endanger the baby. My father, along with my brother, uncle and husband, went to my parents' home to collect all of his stuff. My sister was there, yelling at my husband and accusing him of destroying her family. My father attacked my mother and sister, telling them that they had nearly murdered my kid and that he no longer wanted anything to do with them. Since then, my sister has been sending desperate messages to my brother, begging for assistance, but he refuses to intervene. I am devastated and saddened for my nephew, who is losing so much family because of his mother's behavior. However, this is the truth of the matter. Regarding my mother's threats about custody and grandparents' rights, my lawyer wrote her a letter noting that her actions were harmful to both my health and the baby's. The letter warned that continuing harassment would result in legal penalties. My brother also wrote her a letter highlighting her harassment of me. Both my mother and sister have declined therapy. While they may be mentally sick, it is evident that their actions have been consistent for a long time. I've resolved to prioritize enjoying the holidays with my supportive family, being healthy, and continuing therapy. Update 3. I received several requests for an update, so I thought I'd give a little more. First and foremost, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who has left comments, notes, and suggestions. You have helped us become more cautious and prepared. Some folks wondered how we found out the baby's gender. We waited until after 20 weeks to announce due to a past loss. We had planned to announce the news when the miscarriage occurred the previous time, so we waited this time to preserve our feelings of security. Unfortunately, we were stupid to imagine that this announcement would be special for my mother. After posting, I gave the problem to my husband, who read all of the suggestions and comments. We conducted a thorough sweep of the house and, happily, discovered nothing unusual. However, we still felt insecure, so we moved to a hotel with my father. We later discovered there was a tracker on my dog's vest. My dog is small, cold, and routinely wears a vest, so we never considered checking there. We discovered the tracker when my father took him for a walk around the hotel, and my sister appeared, asking him about me and offering reconciliation. I was outraged and heartbroken, so we decided to relocate. Fortunately, we can afford it. We are renting out our old house to avoid leaving it empty, but I no longer feel at ease there. It seems destroyed and poisoned now. Unfortunately, my parents' house feels the same way, not only for me, but also for my brother, husband, father, sister-in-law, and my husband's family. We changed all of our phone numbers, purchased new equipment, and informed employers, friends, and the police about the problem. We also began individual and family therapy. Despite the fact that I have sincerely forgiven my father and brother, they are filled with remorse. We're all healing as a unit. Meanwhile, my sister and mother claim that they are not wrong and refuse to attend treatment. My father has prepared a new will. My sister's son will receive a trust fund and some inheritance, but my sister will receive only a modest sum. He is utterly finished with her. I originally felt sorry for her, but I've chosen to devote all of my energies to my daughter. My baby has arrived, and we consider ourselves really fortunate. It hasn't been the experience I expected because my mother isn't present, but many friends and family members have surprised us with their love and support. Toward the conclusion of the pregnancy, we got so careful that we tested people we didn't know by telling them I was going into labor. This approach worked, and we figured out who was still leaking information to my mother and sister. We cut them off right away, and the remainder understood once we explained our reasoning. My ex, whom my friends now refer to as Bates, began spreading false information that the kid was his, claiming we were having an affair due to my undying love for him. Fortunately, nobody believed him. My husband phoned Bates' job, outlining the situation. Long story short, Bates was suspended pending an internal review. I am almost certain he will be dismissed, as his boss has requested additional information and has apologized excessively. My mother has tried to find us, but everyone who knows where we are has stopped communicating with her. My father's lawyer issued her a letter informing her that, due to her instability, any communication would henceforth be handled through legal channels. I've recently been living with simply my husband and my father because I felt horrible about him being alone. He insists that he will be all right and that none of this is my fault, but I still feel terrible for him. He has been an excellent babysitter, feeding, and diaper changer. My nephews are still as affectionate as ever, and my father even got to see my sister's son. This occurred because my sister began producing threatening videos, claiming she would harm herself if my husband did not stop alienating her family. My father emailed her, offering to see her son but warned that if her threats persisted, he would contact the police. Fortunately, this appears to have ended the behavior. Finally, someone claimed that I gave Bates false hope. This could not be further from the truth. I spent years feeling uneasy, hoping he would move on. After speaking up and meeting my husband, I spent a lot of time fighting with my sister over this topic. I had a really long engagement, so I married after my sister. I still love my mother and sister, but I've chosen a healthier lifestyle for myself and my family over love. During this journey, I've learned incredible loyalty, love, and compassion from those around me. Strangely, I feel fortunate that everything exploded since it revealed who actually supported me. Update 4. We formally moved into our new home, with my father moving into the guest house. After numerous discussions, both within and outside of treatment, we agreed it was best for him to remain with us while preserving our separate places. We're still renting out the old house and will determine what to do with it later. My father now sees all of his grandchildren together around 3 times per week. However, he must meet my sister's child separately since she would not allow him to take her son unless she knows where he lives. While this may appear to be a fair concern, considering her unstable behavior, we do not want her anywhere near our new house. My mother complained to the lawyers about how unfair it is that my father gets to see his grandchildren, but there is nothing she can do. About a month ago, my father made a revelation that made me anxious. He stated that he has been paying for my nephews, my sister's sons, education and babysitting, which is why she continues to allow him visitation. He felt horrible about keeping it from me and didn't want any secrets between us. I assured him everything was all right and begged him not to feel bad about it. On Mother's Day, my father received an email containing a link to an Instagram account. The account included a sorrowful video about how my mother has been abandoned by the majority of her family, and how my sister is a saint for supporting her. It was sad and irritated me, yet I forwarded it to our lawyer. My father filed for divorce in May, and the process is still underway. My mother insists he is in the wrong, but my father has informed me he would rather drink bleach than reconcile with her. I suppose that's it. For Father's Day, my brother and husband took my father out, and they had a great day. My sister attempted to create drama by posting various things online, but we stopped my father from viewing them so he could enjoy the day. They also went camping with the kids, sort of. They booked a hotel suite, pitched a tent in the middle for the elder kids, and set up a little teepee for the newborn. Moments like these remind me of how much joy my baby has given to our life. I'm overjoyed to see my spouse as the wonderful father I knew he'd be. While it is exhausting, the support we have gotten from family and friends makes me really grateful. My sisters-in-law and I now use a calendar to organize activities for the children, ensuring that they are age-appropriate and fun for them. We have also made it obvious to the children that they do not have to spend time with someone they dislike, and that their feelings are important. Right now, all the youngsters are enamored with the infant and have declared themselves her protectors. We've done small gatherings like breakfasts, and family time has become enjoyable rather than stressful. Without my sister present, The atmosphere is much lighter. I know it's horrible to say, but she constantly appeared to drain the positivity from the room. My mother-in-law, MIL, also enjoys spending time with the baby and typically stays in the guest room once a week. She has been really respectful, constantly asking gently and making it obvious that she does not want to overstep or take the infant to sleepovers. I feel heard and valued by her. Despite this, I've broken down at times because I mourn my mother, the mother I believed I had, not the one who warned me I'd be a bad mother and a cruel woman. My therapist reminds me that this is a marathon, not a sprint, and urges me to focus on the good. Speaking of positives, Bates got fired from his job. Not only that, but his reputation in his sector has been entirely destroyed, on a nuclear scale. His brother, on the other hand, was unaffected because his industry does not place a high value on reputation, and as far as I know, he is still employed. Bates gave me a 12-page, double-sided, single-spaced letter about how sad he is that I am denying him what's his, and how my husband feels so threatened by him that he had to kill him professionally since he couldn't demolish anything else. I say seems because I did not read it. My lawyer did and provided a synopsis. I also heard through the grapevine, no, I don't ask. They just tell me since they know he is tracking me, that his children's mother had moved away, and he didn't care. He reportedly stated that it was for the best. This man does not care about his children and prefers to play family with me and my baby. Unfortunately, Bates will not be homeless because his mother has already allowed him to move back in with her. I doubt he'll learn anything from this. Not the most flashy of updates, but it is what it is. Oh, and my spouse burned or donated every single object given to him by my mother or parents, with my father's permission. He claims life is too short to allow her any space, even in memories. Hi, Reddit, I haven't seen you in a long time. I have a few updates for you. First, I'd like to thank everyone for their remarks and letters. Every time I come into this account, I am greeted with largely pleasant sentiments, which I appreciate greatly. For those looking for updates, the majority of them are good, so let's get started. My parents are now divorced following numerous disputes and tantrums by my mother. She maintained the house and received a lump sum settlement, but that's all. My dad is like a new guy, and we are all overjoyed for him. A little throwback. Despite the drama, we did not fire our cleaning lady. She has been assisting my husband's family for decades, and I was quite concerned about her being out of work due to my wild family. My father spoke with her, telling her she was on paid vacation until we had a new house and asking her to wait for us if she wanted. She was overjoyed, and her family was really grateful. Through this relationship, my father met her sister, who operates a nail shop, and they are now dating. She is a nice woman with adult children, so she knows our family's dynamics. My father has made it obvious that he does not want to move in or marry again, and she is content with that because she cherishes her independence. My mother almost had a stroke when she learned about his new relationship. She continued referring to it as a late midlife crisis and accusing him of being a sugar daddy. I haven't spoken with her, but I know she's hurting financially. She was never adept at budgeting and relied on my father to limit her excessive spending. My sister is also struggling now that my father has ceased aiding her with money. He was originally prepared to continue supporting her for the sake of my nephew, but things changed when my nephew began calling my child an affair baby, claiming she wasn't with her real dad, and even pushing one of my husband's nephews at a party, claiming they weren't actually cousins. The children were perplexed and promptly informed an adult. My father attempted talking to my nephew, but he continued saying the same things. When my father told my sister about it, she remarked, "Kids always tell the truth." That was the final straw. My father cut them off financially and informed her that adjustments needed to be done before he would reconsider. She panicked and screamed, but she refused to give in. Bates is still unemployed. Ironically, his employment involved vulnerable women and stalking, so he was sacked. The organization did not want the scandal to harm them, so they fired him. Bates has sent me 2 more handwritten, rambling letters, but because he only has my lawyer's address, they will be read, filed, and dealt with by my lawyer. My lawyer is a champion. A surprising thing occurred in the supermarket shop. A random woman approached me and inquired whether my baby was Bates's child. I was speechless. She told me he has images of us on his page and blamed me for hurting such a good man. It turns out that Bates is still spreading the story that my kid is his and that I adored him. What surprised me the most was that the photo she mentioned was never made public. It was only shared once with a family group. My husband and I immediately felt there was a rat in the family. After further inquiry, we discovered that my dad's 2 sisters were giving information to my mother. My father was terribly saddened, but he had no concerns about cutting them off. My brother and his family are doing well. We've spent family vacations together, and they've also stopped communicating with my mother and sister. My sister-in-law acknowledged she was never a fan of our mother, but she kept the peace for the family. My mother-in-law stays amazing. She is thrilled to get overnight babysitting privileges. She occasionally gathers all of her grandchildren under one roof, which they like. She even had to make her social media accounts private because my mother was stalking her, which she handled beautifully. My hubby continues to be my rock. We're thinking about having another baby or adopting. It is an honor to have these chats, and I am glad every day for the support system we have. I still miss my mother, the one I thought I had. I sometimes cry when I think about the milestones I can't share with her anymore. But, at the end of the day, she is not a decent person, and my family's safety comes first. This Father's Day, my husband and father went camping. It went smoothly, with the exception of a few mosquito bites and sunburns. Life is improving, and I'm determined to focus on the good. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.